Pues buenos días de nuevo.
Good morning again, or good afternoon. This is the last time I'm saying this because this is the closing session of this seminar, this doctoral seminar, Carlos Quinto European Award, Cultural Roots of the Council of Europe, Cultural Heritage, History and Memory for the Promotion of European Values, Integration and Peace. These 3 days have been full of experiences and it's been very enriching. I'm really grateful, and I want to make a final reflection. We were addressing to each other in a formal way just 3 days ago, and now we can talk to each other in an informal way. That's one of the things of this format, and so thank you for adapting to this kind of televised format. Thank you for adapting to all this, and thank you for your contributions and your hard work. You know that the work doesn't end here. You have a few months' time to rework your papers and to adapt them, to introduce the contributions. And now I give the floor to the two organizers of the seminar. First, TERESA FREIXES. Professor FREIXES.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Miguel. I don't know if this is the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning, because this is not the end. This is not the end. Not at all. This is now the beginning of a second stage in which you have to work on the contributions you have heard here in the results of the debates that will be added to the work you are doing, that will be like a work of reference for your topic. There is something important here. I'm talking about the interdisciplinarity around the subject matter. When I first heard about this topic, I was thinking to myself, let's see if we can really work around it. And it did. Because one might never think that we could link St. Teresa of Avila to the cultural roots. It would be terrible for us if St. Teresa of Avila, Teresa de Cepeda, and Ahumada wouldn't have focused on a woman in itself, full of herself. She was the walker and dariega, as she used to say, and she fought for it, even against the Inquisition. So that left a footprint on us and on the collective imagination. So this really shows how big a topic is, how expandable it is. Another cross-sectional value or another cross-sectional topic is precisely the values behind all these interventions. They were not just an expose, they all had a purpose and intention on the basis of the values that that each one of you wanted to convey. And this is important because works need to have a soul. If they don't have an underlying soul, in the end they get lost. So in the end, we can only remember what had a soul. Even if we don't like it, we don't have to like it. You don't need to like it. But if there isn't passion behind the complete work, the work might disappear or get lost easily. Multidisciplinarity was not only to be found in the topics, but also in the methodologies, opposing or opposed methodologies that we have seen in these 3 days. They are all the more important because in the end they are more interconnected than it looks. And sometimes they could intertwine with each other, they could interact with each other and help us disentangle some of the questions that are still there, that are still pending in our research. We have learned a lot. I could have never imagined I could listen to speech about geoparks, or that I myself have visited a geopark. And next time I will visit a natural place, I will ask myself, is it a geopark or not? So all this coming back and forth, American, Europe, that has been mentioned in many of the interventions is important, more than we can think, because sometimes they are there, even if it's not evident or obvious. I could never imagine finding out that there are common elements in what you have explained and things that I have done myself. I could have never imagined the interaction of my work with the cultural roots of the Council of Europe. And now I know there is a certain connection. And the creation of common places for reflection and dialogue is something that rarely exists because, well, I am of a certain age. I've been to many conferences and events. There were a mere succession of exposés with no common thread. This is not the case. These seminars, not just this one, but this series of seminars, are the opposite. Yesterday I was talking to a friend who got me from northern Spain, and she said to me, well, you have a wonderful time when you go to Yuste. And I said, yes, this is charming, a charming place, because not just the place, but also because of the organizers and the attendees and people who you see year after year. It is something special. There's something special about this seminar. This something special is something that is being generated through the little by little. If you remember the first debates, there wasn't much interaction, or not as much as in the final ones, because that also generates more interest. Instead of just addressing the topic in itself, the topic becomes enriched with everything people contribute to it. Enriching for a reflection, for both taking it and not taking it into account. Because reflection can lead to you to think, well, this is suitable for my research, or the opposite. No, this is not relevant for my research. This is completely different. This is a different sphere. And I don't think it's relevant for me to tackle it. That dimension needs to be taken into account too. And what about cultural richness and linguistic richness? That is something that we have to take into account too, even if most of the interventions are in English and Spanish, mostly, but there is, we see the underlying linguistics manifest in the way we talk about the topic, in the way you explain it, and that is a kind of integration too, because it means that languages are a communication tool. Languages cannot divide. They cannot create situations of discrimination. They are an important communication tool that bring forward these spaces of communication when they're not used for spurious things, because, well, you know where I come from. That's why I'm so satisfied to come here. And my friend was right. And she said to me, you will come back in a different shape, in a different way. So I hope all that has been said here in this seminar will be reflected in your work, that you will write now, and that your work will be influential to the outside too, and that it could be useful, as all things you do. They come from a specific context, they become consolidated, and they generate more context. So this seminar is an element in that chain in the intellectual life that enables us to link what we have done to what we are doing now, to what we are going to do in the future. So I have to thank the European and Ibero-American Academy of Yuste Foundation for creating such a singular space. This is a very unique space that cannot be found in many other contexts that need to be like more elegant or pretentious, that nevertheless try to have strong projection. So thank you, Juan Carlos, Miguel, and staff of the Yuste Foundation, the interpreters, the government of Extremadura for consolidating this program and for supporting it for the place it occupies, because if you see the list of courses in this program, well, you'll be stunned. This is the end of my intervention, but I hope that all you will reach your goals, and for the rest of us, I wish to ourselves that we will be able to keep on coming to these wonderful events and keep on working towards the construction of the thinking of today.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Teresa. I always like to say that the greatest asset of the foundation is the people we work with, and Teresa is a big example. Teresa and all of the experts here. Well, this is really the final intervention. So Juan Carlos Moreno Piñero, the director of the Fundación, has the floor. He's the chief and commander of the ship. I'm sorry, well, I wanted to apologize. This is an inner joke, because he always introduced me by saying that I was the captain of the foundation, and I said, hey, you have to promote me. I am the chief and commander. Well, I begin on a sad note, because we just learned that Alain Turin died this morning in Paris. He was part of the Academy of Yuste and the Antonio Vivaldi Chair since 2004. He was a sociologist born in 1925. So he lived during the Second World War, and all his work revolved around the reconstruction of Europe. He came to Yuste on several occasions. He kept a good correspondence with us until he stopped coming because of his health condition. So I wanted to start on this sad note. And at the same time, I was thinking about the 30th of June 2017, where there was the closing day of one of the campus Yuste courses. I was driving my car together with Marcelino Oreja, and we learned on arriving to our hotel that Simone Weil had just passed away. We've been talking about women, and she was one of the wonderful women that took part in the history of Europe. She was an Auschwitz survivor, and she lost everything except for her dignity. She lost all her family. And then she started working for Europe, and she was one of the Carlos Quinto European Awards in 2008. So I was remembering Simone Weil, Alain Turin, and it came to my mind, king is dead, long live the king. So, well, this was their kingdom. I just want to, I don't know, are you keeping track of my time? No? Okay, then I just want to say a few words about the people here. I'd like to thank the interpreters, Nadia, Carla, and Juan. Thank you for your efficient and professional work. At the same time, I understand it is difficult because sometimes I have trouble following some of the discussions and interventions in Spanish. So I imagine that for them having to listen in Spanish and then interpret must be hard work. And also I want to thank my staff, my colleagues at Yuste that are behind everything. And I would also like to thank my colleagues, the experts, the panel experts. I know that I have a very limited time. I want to talk about your merits and your generosity. If this was just work for them, they wouldn't come here. Imagine Eric from France and Professor Albert from Germany, Anna from Italy, Martina from Argentina. If this was just work, you wouldn't be coming here because you are the most generous people here. If you come here, it's because you're passionate about this, and we have to be thankful for you for that. And I would like to thank the students too, because you have been serious and honest. You haven't been here to just have fun, jarandilla. Your exposés were very good. We might have liked or disliked them, but I have to say this because I am running a state-run foundation, a public foundation, and we use money from taxpayers. So you know that taxpayers pay this money with a lot of effort, and when I handle this money, when I give my permission to use a certain amount of money, I feel very shameful if the money is not well spent. So on my behalf and on behalf of all the taxpayers, thank you for your passion and your hard work, because this money has been well spent. And then I want to say two more things about the first one about Europe. The Schuman Declaration on 9th of May 1950 uses a very solid sentence. Europe won't be made in just one go. Or in French, l'Europe ne se fera pas d'un coup, in just one go. It is much more, it's much stronger than just in one hit or in one go. So Europe is much more than what we used to hear about it. Europe is more than solidarity, and Europe is much more than Brussels and Luxembourg. Europe is also made in Jarandilla de la Vera and in many other places where you work and live. European Union, Latin America, this is a European seminar, but we have Camila from Colombia, Laura with family in Argentina, Natalia from Ecuador. So this is the coexistence of both worlds. And I think that Europe cannot be possible without Latin America, and Latin America cannot be possible without Europe. Do you think there is a more powerful bi-regional alliance than the one composed of Latin America and Europe? I don't know if we're on the right path or not, however, because if we go back to the summit of the Santo Domingo summit 3 months ago, if you look at the conclusions, you might think, well, it's okay, but I remember a conclusion about digital transformation and another one on financial architecture. Well, that doesn't strike a chord in me. I remember, however, the Guadalajara summit in 1991, the written conclusions said something about we have to transform all these effective ties that we have shared from 300 years. We have to transform them into cooperation and solidarity ties. So we used to talk about cooperation and solidarity on the basis on a common culture, and now we're talking about financial architecture. Something is not working there. Or something is working for someone, but not for me. I'm not passionate about finance. I'm passionate about solidarity and cooperation, something that everybody has been talking about here. And now I want to talk about the students, the PhD students, or the doctors. When you first came here, you didn't know anything about the people on the other side of the table, although they did know you. So what do I mean with this? This is the beginning of something, because you got this grant not just randomly, or it wasn't a prize draw or something like that. No, we have gone through your resumes and your biographies, and we chose you. We selected you out of a group of 100 people or more. So this is not the time to stop and reach conclusions, but you have to stop and see what you're doing or what you're heading to. And you have to remember two groups of people: your families first, because you are what you are thanks to your families and their efforts, and secondly, you have to acknowledge your teachers, your masters, your professors, because we are the result of what others have taught us. So you have finished only the preliminary chapter of this journey. Since I'm talking of journey, I would quote Antoine Saint-Exupéry, The Little Prince, a book that has been read by almost everyone. And he says many beautiful things. Well, I'm paraphrasing Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. For example, if you know you're can visit me at 4 o'clock, I will start looking forward to it at around 3. So if you know that you will be enjoying something in the future, we will be looking forward to it. That's the difference between traveling or just moving around. Because in the 19th century, we used to travel. We enjoyed the journey, and now we just go from one place to another. Maria was talking about that you're catching a train here in Spain to get to Ghent, but you will be working while on the train. Well, that is just moving from one place to another. You're not traveling. So I ask you, I beg you, travel and enjoy, and because you will be reaching your goals, you will be getting to what you are aspiring to get, but enjoy the time in the meantime. And another quote by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry is, well, I will have to deal with worms if I want to meet the butterflies. So, yes, you will have to deal with larvas if you are to meet the butterflies. And I also want you to know that I hope that you will be able to use your claws if you have to deal with beasts. You are now part of the Yuste alumni. If you go to the list of activities and page number 15, there is a world map, and you will see all the countries in the world where we have Yuste alumni. It is a graphic representation of, I like to call it a forest, where we have planted trees and the trees are growing there. And today we have 10 more trees in that forest, in those forests. We have to water it, we have to feed it, but you will be using it, and maybe your shadow, or sorry, the shade of your trees will be used by someone else. And I want to keep track of my time. I have to stick to my time, but now, please, I need you to give you your badges or your pins that you have earned, because these are the pins for the Yuste alumni, and this is when we make a toast and you need a glass for the toast. This is like this. I need the pins. Someone has to hand me the pins.
El pin de la fundación.
This is the pin or the brooch of the foundation.
Ay, Camilo. Camilo. Por favor. Pero tú se lo tendrás que dar a Teresa antes.
Ah, yo Teresa. Yo hago eso ahora.
Y ahora, Natalia. Ana ya es alumni de Yuste, pero este es el nuevo pin.
Anna is a Yuste alumni, but she's going to get the new pin, the new brooch. Brooch.
Martina. Martina. Bueno, no tenemos gorras que tirar al aire, pero
We don't have any of those graduation hats to throw up in the air, but have a safe trip back home.